Good evening, Dave Wilson of the Ring of Hire Show. All right, tonight's a great show. We got Amy Stone of Stone Solutions Consulting. How you doing, Amy?
I'm awesome. I hope you are.
Hey, it's always going good. And we have Marva Steed of Marvelous HR. I love it.
Yes,
How you doing, Marva? And you are in what, Tennessee, right?
I'm in Tennessee. Glad to
All
be
right.
here.
All right. Me and Amy are still in PA, so we're in a great state of PA. Everybody knows the routine here. We got a great show today, and Amy, thanks again. Leadership mistakes HR sees every day, and wow, is that broad?
Right.
That can be like I said, we said like 3 or 4 shows. But on that note, we'll be right back after as soon as I find it. There it is. We'll be right after this video. All right. Whew. Are leadership mistakes HR sees every day? Whew. We got
Yeah.
we got a lot of them. I love it. And with
Yeah.
my goal,
I think having Marva on is just absolutely perfect for this discussion, given, your background, Marva, and being able, you've seen so much. You've been in different industries. So being able to have this discussion and talk about what you've seen, big picture in everything. So thank you very much for
yes,
joining us. This is
appreciate it.
exciting.
My pleasure.
Not many HR people come on the show.
We're going to change that.
Yeah, we're gonna change that, because like I always say, this first question when I looked at that, I was like, wow, biggest leadership mistakes HR sees repeatedly, and I had to think about like, what would I say? And I'll always remember how the one HR she would always tell me in my last company. She always says, "Hey, what we don't know, we can't help with. We don't know if we don't know about it. Everything seems to just hit it at once. All of a sudden now it's a big deal. Because I've changed my process on that. I don't sit on it no more. You can't. If you know something's wrong and you do it, that's what I think you need to go to HR. I've said that numerous times. People will reply back to that and say no, but I just really feel that way. Because they don't know about it, and they don't learn about it until it's too late, to where the fights or the arguments or the sexual harassment. Oh my God, I could go on and on. That things now that have happened, I would be totally different towards.
So,
Yeah.
Marva, what do you think the biggest leadership mistakes you
I,
see repeatedly?
I would say that is definitely one, David, in the top five for me. Leaders trying to manage an HR issue on their own. You can
Yeah,
get in so much trouble. There's so many loopholes, so many things that you don't even know about that particular employee, even that may get you in trouble, right? That might get the company in trouble. It's always best to turn those things over to HR and let HR handle them. I would say for me though, the biggest leadership mistake that I see repeatedly across every organization that I've worked in pretty much is they take a top performer and then they give them a leadership role,
right,
right? Without any leadership training. It's two things. It's either that, then you're dealing with a leader and you're trying to explain to them, no, listen, this is sexual harassment. You're literally
right,
trying to explain to somebody who's gone from a top performer, now they're a leader, or a company that is long-term owned by a family member and then turned over to a son or a family member
going from
that
there.
terrible leader, and it didn't matter because that's their successor or whatever. But those are probably the top two for me. It's just putting the great performers in leadership roles where they could really do some harm, from a turnover standpoint, from a legality standpoint, all kinds of things, right? And then, yeah, just like you said, I think it's more people that try to manage it on their own instead of
Yeah.
bringing it to HR.
Yeah.
I always say any question's not off. I'd rather ask a stupid question
Yes.
than and listen, if an HR person would get, I don't think that's never happened to me. I mean, there's nothing wrong with just, calling them or emailing and saying, "Hey, this has happened. What do I do?"
Yeah,
Because you rather protect yourself, and like you said, you're going to get yourself because you thought that was the right thing to do when it's wrong.
that's right.
Just going back to the sexual harassment, anytime I have a manager, I don't care how long they've been a
Yeah.
manager or new or not, but the one thing that I always leave them with is that now you are in management, you're a supervisor, you're in management. If anybody comes to you with anything, you are legally bound to
Right.
say something. And if you don't, that falls on you personally and the company legally. So I
Mm.
really want to impress upon them that if anybody says anything to you, once you know it, you have to say something. So, that is one thing that we've done the leadership classes and, really honing in on the sexual harassment and the lawsuits and the things that
Just for
people
that.
will dismiss, but then realize like it's a big deal. So, and Marva, so you just highlighted something else that I'm pretty passionate about. And I think you just said it. Why are companies still promoting the wrong people into leadership roles? This gulls me, frustrates me.
I know, right? And it pretty much is the same exact from my answer from above. And as I was reading that, I thought, you know what, I just answered that question. But I would say they do reward, and here's the problem with that. Other people see that, and then
Right.
they lose hope. They don't have a desire to work for a company that does that, right? They promote somebody, that isn't necessarily ready for a leadership role. And I'll tell you, working in a retail environment, turnover is just incredible.
I
And so
can't even imagine that.
they just grab, they're just grabbing people, right? And so they're promoting. And so without even checking to see, does this person have conflicts with people in the workplace? Those things, not even, they just come at you with, we're promoting so and so. And many times that's the wrong person to do that. And you
You know,
should tell right.
everybody talks about that. We've always said it about they promote, and that's a big thing. That's a hot subject because people always say that's the first thing. But how do you, as a company, change that thought process? Because that's all you ever hear. Same thing. We say it over and over and over. But what are we doing wrong to make sure that we put that right person in? To say, okay, train when it comes down to training for the companies, they got to provide. But I've never heard really of training how to promote the right person. You know what I mean? Like, how
Yeah,
do you do that besides saying, oh, he comes to work or he or she comes to work every day on time? They're the hardest workers. They don't give you no problems, but put them in that role right away, and then things just change, and you're like, wow, what? But it's not their fault sometimes. I think it's the
that's true. That's true.
team.
It is not. You're right. And I would say, Amy, do you remember we put together in a place where we worked together before, Leadership Academy? I
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
They need to give them the tools they need instead of just throwing them into because they're a great producer or
Right.
they're great technically, putting them into a leadership role without any kind of training or leadership mentorship, that kind of
Hmm.
thing. I think it's really, it just does a disservice to the person that you've done it to as well.
Right.
Right.
So, just on that, there was a company I worked for, and we did the leadership development for all new managers and all supervisors. So, it was a baptism by fire. So, yes, you are great at your job, but we need to give you another step, another layer to help you be successful. And I think that is something that a lot of companies overlook is, yeah, you're great at your job, but you've never managed people.
Right.
That is the hardest job. Managing people is so difficult. So it's really important to make sure that you give them all the tools. Give them a tool belt, start giving them tools to understand how to work through that. And it's not a one and done. It cannot be, okay, hey, there's a 1 minute or a 1 hour tutorial that you're going to do, and now you know everything. It can't be like that. So,
No.
really having a 2.5 day course and giving them the information and letting them know where to get more, how to help them. So I think that that is the part that is really being missed by so many companies, and really the other reason why I started my consulting business, because it hones in on how to help leaders grow and maintain. So,
I do that.
but yeah, putting the wrong people in leadership roles is the best way to fail quickly.
Absolutely. Then you lose your top performer too, right? So
Yes.
you
Yeah,
can,
I didn't think of it that way. You're right. Yeah, they end up leaving.
yeah,
Something happens if they do, and now you just lost one of them. You are right there.
Yep.
going from
You know.
coworker to peer, going from peer to leader is such a big step for a lot of people. Now, some people say leadership is you're born with it. I don't agree with that. I believe that people can learn great leadership. And in
Right.
fact, the people that I know grew through the years, and they're just amazing leaders today when they maybe weren't 5 years ago. So
Well, when they tossed me when I got out of the military, went into the paper industry with my parents, all of us, we all became managers. My brothers were all frontline supervisors. And I didn't back then, and you didn't get that kind of a training. So we had a couple, I'll never forget it, a guy and a girl. They were fighting all the time, but it was a union shop. It was tough. They were picking on each other. Nobody knew about harassment, sexual, or anything. Well, the one night she came up to me and she said, Roberta, and she's like, Dave, he tried to run me over in the parking lot with my car. Well, I was young then, but I was just like, oh my God, I'm so tired of freaking hear. That's all you hear about it every night. Nobody did anything. And I didn't say anything. I didn't. But then, whoa, when that got thrown in, I mean, that was a big thing because when you think about it, I mean, it's not funny, but he tried to, if he did do that, you didn't have cameras back then. What did I do? I didn't do anything besides I said, well, they complain every night about it.
yeah,
So I didn't
Right.
know you didn't have things back then to say, "Hey, you're wrong." I know now. If somebody was to say that, wow, that's a big thing. But there again, for all those harassment things, I did not know what to do before it
Right.
was too late to where everybody was involved in the meetings. And then it comes back to the supervisors. Sometimes they get in trouble,
oh yeah,
and you can't really say, "Well, I was always honest. I didn't know." You
yeah.
know, that's the tough thing about it. And I don't think I'll ever forget that. You tried to run me over, so
Well, it's funny. You find that, especially in the retail space,
right.
leaders don't want to turn. They don't want to turn in their top performers. They don't want to bring HR into an investigation that might cost them one of their big producers, right? Because their paychecks are dependent on that as well. But what they don't realize is that the legalities can cost so much more, so much
Right,
more.
just for doing that.
Right.
Um, so one of the next questions, and where we hit the why companies promote the wrong people, we're looking at that. Um, what kind of qualities do you think you could look for? No, that's number. I'm sorry, that was my fault there. The difference between we're going on this subject. Difference between involvement and micromanaging, and it still comes down to all the different things there. It says, what do you feel, Amy, about that? The difference between involvement and micromanaging. Are you talking about what should the person be doing, getting involved, seeing this? Is
So
that
I have my mindset is trust but verify. So if I have to micromanage at any point in time, it's usually for if I have to do anything, it's for somebody new coming in that's learning the groundwork, learning the culture. I'll give them the lay of the land, and knowing that you've got to tell somebody 7 times before they truly understand it, and being able to make sure that they get it. But I'm not a micromanager, but
right?
I will make sure that they have the tools that they need. They truly understand it, and they're not just giving me yes, I can do it. But it's definitely a trust but verify. But micromanaging is the way that that's
Ugh.
nails to the chalkboard for me. Just you hire this person, give them the tools, the training, and the support they need, and let them go. Let them do what they need to do. Let them fail too. I think failure is absolutely critical because then you learn. And every step you do, fall.
Can
But
you
then
change them? Can
you
you
correct
change or
it.
not? Can you change a micromanager? Have you? Does it
I
work?
I
Does it
I
work
don't
to where you
think
get
so.
pulled in? I'm sure once people complain or different things,
I'm
can a
curious what Marva
micromanager be
thinks.
changed?
I
What's
would
that?
I would say I've never seen one change.
Right.
Me neither.
In my 30 years of doing, I've never seen one change. You can coach them and try to talk to them about being a servant leader, be there, support your team. It's about support. It's not about micro. It just doesn't. It just always comes back to they can't help it. And I
Mhm.
don't know if that's because they've been micromanaged. I don't. I'm not. But it is clear. There's a clear line there. They don't change.
Right.
They
And I
don't.
think about like when I was teaching my daughter how to tie her shoes. And and I think about how she's doing it. The shoe gets tied. It's not how I would do it. At the end of the
It
day,
gets
it's
done.
tied. And she did it her way. So for me to go and show her exactly what I do and reprimand her because she's not doing exactly the way that I do, it's pointless. And I think that, kind of using that kind of thought process, show them as long as the quality and the safety is still there and it's
Right.
not going to be over budget, allow them, give them the ABC. This is what we need to do, this is the time frame, this is when I need it done, and let them do it, check in periodically, the delegation.
Yeah, that.
But I mean, there's so many things that have to be done, but to micromanage every step of the way is just not, it can't be done, it shouldn't be done.
Marva, they said,
Support
I like this
participating.
saying here. It says, involvement is guidance, micromanaging is control. But I was kind of looking at like what it meant, like involvement is guidance. I didn't understand that part.
It's more like support. I like to say support versus without suffocating, right? You want to be there to support them. You want to be
Right.
there when they run into issues, when something happens, right? You want to be there to be able to coach them. You really want to set the expectation, coach, and trust. You have to have those things. Without those three, you're just going to keep spinning your wheels, right? Because you're going to get a new person because that person didn't like being micromanaged. You're going to get someone else
Right.
who doesn't like being micromanaged. It's just you're just going to spin through people that way. But I
It's
always
horrible.
I tell leaders support without suffocating. You don't have to suffocate people to provide support. Like we don't.
Again, can that be trained? Can that be something, the same thing like when I said about the leadership? Can you train that? Can you teach someone not to micromanage? Like you said about classes, about leadership roles and leadership. Is there training that they give people to not to micromanage? Because everybody's worked for one, everybody knows one. But
Yeah.
is that something you can teach, or is that just something in that person? Like you said, it's not going to go away.
You know what the craziest thing is, David? When you talk to a micromanager and you say, "Hey, your employees are telling us that you're micromanaging," and they don't they're denying it. No, what are you talking about? I'm not micromanaging anybody. Why are six of them telling us? Like, what are you doing? Why are you checking to see if they're at their desk at 8 a.m.? That's micromanaging. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't
that's
know that
crazy.
some leaders know what micromanaging looks like. I
Is
don't
that
know.
like a narcissist as well? Is it the same almost? Is it close? Or that's totally different?
For sure, but yeah, I think many times they don't even understand what they're doing. It's just the control aspect of it. They want to be successful. I don't think anybody's intentionally out there saying, "I'm just going to micromanage these people."
Right.
Right.
I
And
think
Margaret,
they're trying to control it, to control the outcomes, and that's the worst thing you can do.
For that.
For me, I'm seeing a lot of the micromanagers, older, not the newer 20-ish, 30-ish, because unless you've been in your role and that's just what you've learned to do, I think the ones starting out, if they get the proper training, they will understand that micromanaging is not what you want to do,
Right.
and then be able to circumvent that and stay away from that.
Yeah.
But I tell people when they do that is, listen, I've made a commitment to myself that I'll never have that happen to me again. Everybody has a story, and I don't think you'll ever forget it when you go through something like that. And I would do things opposite now. I would confront it more now than ever. I don't want to ever go through that again because, like you said, that timing, every little thing. When does it get to that point where that employee, like I tell somebody, listen, you got to bring it up. There's
Mhm.
nothing wrong if it's bothering you. You're going home. It's affecting your family. It's affecting everything around your whole thing, but not that person. You're going home, and I say to myself, I'm not wasting my energy on something like that. I'm going to bring it up, nip it in the butt, whether it's a good thing or not. But I feel if you do it professionally in the beginning, like, listen, is there something I'm doing wrong? I mean, that's just me. Now,
Mhm.
uh,
Great.
as I evolve, as he says, as you evolve.
Yeah.
But that's a total great subject there, and I could tell, Marva, that you've had a lot of experience in that just by you were like, nope.
Yep. I can pick them out pretty quickly. Usually, I can say, "Oh, this one's not going to be. We're gonna have issues." I'll tell you too. Mentorship. We tried mentorship because we had some really solid leaders who just couldn't let go because they were being held so accountable to their own numbers that they were pushing that out to their own employees. Um,
Right.
didn't feel like, I mean, they were being micromanaged and they were pressing it down to their own team, didn't really realize that's what that was. And we tried mentorship, right? People that we know that didn't do that, that had great results, right? Here's somebody who's got, and tried to connect them with a mentor. I would say that helped somewhat until the mentorship was over. And then they went right back to the behavior typically.
So it's right back to same. So that's what I mean. How do you instill, like, when you counsel somebody for like that, do they even realize, does a micromanager even know that's what they do or what they're doing? They probably don't feel that, you know, I don't micromanage. I never have. I don't believe I have. I don't think nobody's ever in my career, but I would want to know, I think, am I doing, like you said, I've seen people about that 8 o'clock, where are they at?
Oh yeah.
I'm like,
or they walk the hall
geez,
at 4:55, right, to see if
yeah,
they're still in their seat. Like you're like, these are
Bringing back bad memories, Marva.
yeah,
I'm talking even sea level. Like it can get really crazy.
yeah, that's what I look at there, but Amy, that's a great, I like how you put that one on there.
Marva,
Um,
so how can leaders hold people accountable without damaging relationships?
I like
I
that.
would
That was
say hold people accountable. I would say healthy leaders set expectations. Um, they're clear, be clear, timely, specific, curious, and respectful. But while you're doing that, focus on solving, not blaming. Right? Focus, and that's one of the things I tell people when you go to blaming someone, they go into defense mode. So focus on solving the issue um,
right.
instead of, and you can still hold people accountable while still showing them that you appreciate them, right? Without running them
Yeah.
out the door. And that's what I tell people about performance improvement plans. Everybody has the idea that once you get a performance improvement plan, you're on your way out. That's not necessarily the case. In fact, I've seen more come out of a PIP than I've seen get turned for them. It's rare. Like it really is the company saying, "Help us help you," right?
Right.
So I think just being clear, timely, specific, respectful. You got to be respectful and listen to people instead of just talking at them.
I like that.
So,
I like
Marva,
that.
I'm curious what you think, and Dave too. So, when I the accountability, especially for new managers, and this is something that they get sucked into a lot, and
Yeah.
the having an employee talk about what somebody else is doing, and give other reasonings and deflecting. And it's I see a lot of new managers that will go down those rabbit holes and chase that shiny object instead of just staying true to it and
Yeah.
Right
bringing
now.
it back into what the true issue is and getting that resolved and not allowing the different rabbit holes, because people are great at doing that. I mean, they want to
Yeah.
deflect. They're really good at it, and it takes a seasoned manager to be able to pull that back in and say, no, this is what we're talking about. We're talking about you. We're not talking about Tom and Jerry over there. We let's go back and focus on what we need to resolve here. And I think that
I
that
love
is
it.
some of the leadership skills that are missed. They're not talked about, and I think that that's something that needs to be honed in on. That, so I wanted to bring that up. And so Dave, do you have you seen that before, where people?
Yeah, I've seen it, and I agree totally with you. This part here, I like where it says is, when on here, I like how it says, I'm always big on words anymore. Accountability isn't punishment; it's clarity.
Mhm.
When leaders set expectations early and coach often, accountability feels supportive, not confrontational. So I got to read it a couple times to understand. I get it. Accountability doesn't mean when you're held accountable, it's not punishment. It's just part of the job. But
Right.
do you feel a little bit on that? Does that make sense to you, Marva, on that?
Does I would say for me, accountable, and I say this, and people that watch this tonight will see that they will say she said that to me because I said it so many times. Accountability and empathy can absolutely coexist. You don't have to be harsh when you're issuing accountability, but people want to be held accountable. They just want it, and they
Right.
want coworkers more than that. They want their coworkers to be held accountable. So when you let those things slip, then it's just a reflection on. It just gets worse. It's a reflection on
Okay.
that kind of thing.
Mhm.
But I would say that accountability and empathy can absolutely coexist.
They can coexist. And we've taught Amy, we've had that discussion about empathy. You
Mhm.
know, again, can you teach that? Can you just somebody younger for a peer mentor? You talked about mentorship. Can a mentor teach that?
Right.
Should a mentor like part of their job to be able to teach those kind of things to a younger person, or it doesn't matter whether they're younger, that at any age that they're promoted, can you get that instilled in them to know about that? Because that makes sense. When I had to think about that when you said that, it makes sense.
I
I
mean,
feel
so
like discipline is harsh, right? That's when you think about that, you're holding somebody accountable, and some people look at that as as something harsh, but it doesn't have to be.
Okay.
right, it was usually a misunderstanding. There is a,
Yeah.
somebody didn't know something or didn't know understand the why behind it, and had a different view, a different thought, and or I mean, sometimes they just want to do what they want to do. But I think a lot of people don't typically just do things wrong just to make you mad. There's a disconnect somewhere, and it's getting to where they are, their level, their understanding,
Yep.
and in bringing them to where they need to be successful. And I think that that's one of the harder things to work with newer managers. And what Jude said before, Marva, the mentorship. And if
Yeah.
I could do it, I would do a year. Any new manager coming on would be assigned to a senior person for a year, so they could go through all of these one-off situations
Right.
and be comfortable and safe, and not always run to HR unless it's critical, but have somebody who's got that, well, this is what I would do and if I were in this situation, and the reason why. So that will help them, but give it a year. A year would be my suggestion.
To understand it, and that makes sense there.
Mhm.
But that's a great topic too. I mean, these topics that we're talking about could be full shows,
Mhm.
because everybody's been through it. And the next one here that you have is why poor onboarding is overlooked. And I had to listen, say that over why is overlooked. It was saying here, leaders think onboarding is an HR's job. And, I don't think that is. I don't think onboarding has anything to do with HR. They're going to give you the
Paperwork.
how to do it, but not steps. But I don't think they're saying, hey, that's HR's job, because that's changed years ago. I don't know. Things have changed since. I always say back in the '90s, 2000s, when even in the '80s, it was HR wasn't involved with all that stuff. We didn't have HR for onboarding. They did all the hiring and interviewing, but HR didn't do any of that. It seems like HR is just doing it all now. Just every department, add safety to them, add everything to them. But I don't think it's always that. But why is onboarding overlooked?
Well, there's orientation and onboarding, and I
Right,
think that those words are used together too often. And I think that being able to understand the difference between the orientation and the onboarding. So, orientation, in my mind, and Marva, correct me if I'm wrong, orientation would be more of the handbook, the benefits.
right,
Your first day, and then onboarding, it is your first day, but that's a continuation thereof, and getting acclimated into the department, and making sure that you have all access to everything, your computer, and everything that you need for your files and platforms and whatnot. And then it's still continuation to make sure you really know who's who, what's what, where to find stuff. That's the difference that I see. So, Barbara, do you have a different view on that?
Nope, I would say orientation, the way I try to explain it is orientation, everybody gets orientation.
right.
Onboarding is job related. So your job in
Okay.
the position you're hired for, you're going to be onboarded into that position. Someone's going to show you how to do that job. They're going to teach you. They're going to train you. You're going to get all of that. That's what I would consider onboarding, right? Onboarding into the position. Orientation is, hey, welcome to the company. We're so glad you're
Right.
here. That kind of thing. And this is what our benefits look like. And all that. Well, this is what happens if you have a work comp claim. This is what you do about it. That kind of thing.
Is there things that can go wrong from an HR perspective of the onboarding and poor onboarding? Is it something that there's just one step? All it takes is just one step. That's
Oh,
wrong.
yes, it very wrong. In fact, during COVID, when everyone was really scrambling to hire warehouse people, right? No, it was impossible to hire warehouse people. We were struggling with it as
Right.
well. And I would say the biggest thing for me was, why are we not onboarding these people? Because we were having injuries like crazy. They weren't
Yeah.
trained on public
That
living,
makes sense.
that kind of thing, right? So you want to make sure that the people have the tools they need to get to do the job correctly, but also safely. And a lot of leaders just need a body to fill a role, and they're just hiring somebody. They're starting them out first day, and we've
Well,
been.
that makes sense. I didn't think about that during COVID. That was
Mhm.
probably so crazy.
It's still the same way though. In a high turnover environment, you just bring people in and you just try to get them as up and running as quickly as possible, and that's not always the best thing to do. Sometimes it's better to have a little bit of your business struggle a little bit, and while you get somebody brought up to speed, because when you bring somebody in, they got to get acclimated pretty well to be able to perform well.
Right.
Oh, that makes total sense.
Right.
Amy, you want to start the great thing
Yeah,
with
so I
the?
wanna ask one question,
Okay.
and then we'll start the lightning round. So Marva, if every manager listening could change one habit tomorrow, what would you have the greatest? What would be the greatest positive impact on their team?
Um, I think asking, um, have a meaningful conversation with every employee. That's what I always recommend to every leader. A meaningful conversation. Find out about their family, find out about who they are, what their why is, why do they come to work, and why do they want to do this job, right? And that's a big one for me. Ask what's going well, what's getting in your way, how can I help? Number one,
Mhm.
how can I help? It's hard for leaders sometimes to even ask, how can I help?
Right.
Because they feel like if they're going to help, they're jumping down several levels of. It's not like that at all. We're here all to get a job done. Uh,
Right.
I like that.
Yeah.
And for me, like I was reading this one thing, how it says start giving feedback in real time. Do it now, not at the end of the month. Don't wait again. Not, just don't wait till it builds up to change. Like I said, I like to tell everybody when they're young, man, you can make a difference, but just slow down and just really just, don't talk. My biggest thing when I tell them is like, don't talk about things. Hey, you're a manager now. You can't say, "Hey, listen, I don't want to say this, but we're going to do it." You know what I mean? It always comes back to bite you. Keep your mouth. You have to be careful of what you say because they'll take it the wrong way. And it comes right back out as a leader. That's a young leader that doesn't know that, not to say that, because you can't tell them things about the company that you just can't start saying that because it'll get out on the floor and then it just downturns from there.
That's right. You know what? I always say people are not looking for perfect leaders. They want present leaders. And
Mhm.
so
I want that.
you
Oh,
just
all right.
be present with your team, be there when they need you, when offer to assist when you see a problem, those kind of things I think goes so
No,
far.
And
I
be
like that.
genuine.
Be
Be
genuine,
genuine.
listen,
So,
and be genuine. Yeah.
So the thing that I am big on is, when you do a performance evaluation, I always give my team to do their self-evaluation. And what I expect is that what they put down is what I'm going to put down. And there's never a surprise because we're talking every day. And if you're doing a great job, you're going to know it. And if you're doing a bad job, you're going to know it. So there's
Right.
never a surprise. And so when we do performance evaluations, you could literally lay them next to each other, and it would be what I would write, maybe a little bit different, but it would mirror each other because we had those conversations. And
Yep.
so I think that is what I would pass along to anyone is making sure that no surprises, no surprises.
I agree with that. Yes, that can be one of the worst situations when you see a performance review come in and into HR that the employee refused to sign. Then you go, uh-oh, and you start reading through it, and it's stuff that should have been discussed with this employee all along, right? They've waited all year long to get
Right.
this feedback that now is going to hurt their ability to promote, also
Yep.
hurt their ability for an increase in pay and those kind of things. So
Yeah.
The same thing, and that's got to have an effect. Well, it does on everybody. Everything that we're talking about in my mind as I'm like, "Yep, been there.
Yep.
Yep, been
yeah,
there." I think
yeah,
everybody, and it doesn't matter who you are. I think anybody's been through it. It's always all these things that we've talked about tonight. It's the real world. It's just what it has, and how do you change it? How do you like? I like that one habit managers could change, man. If you can make that one,
Yep.
say to yourself, "I'm not going to do this again," and you'll see how much easier it gets. You don't have to worry about the HR aspect of it. You don't have to worry about your bosses coming down on you. Ask the
Mhm.
questions, learn it, and be, I don't know, talk to them like you'd want to be talked to.
I
If I
Right.
agree.
wanted to
Right.
say it like that, not like that demanding, but you can get things done. The empathy, if you want
Mhm.
to say it like that, even you can get it done differently.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be the dictate. I called it back then dictatorship, but they got results. That's the only thing when the fear of you, they put the fear into you. So the
Yeah.
fear to get results, it doesn't work nowadays like that.
Well, they're leading with a stick, right, instead of a
Yeah.
carrot. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, Dave.
So,
So we are going to do something that we haven't done before is a lightning round. So I'm excited about this. I'm going to ask the questions and I'm going to go Marva and Dave and then me. So
all
Marva,
right.
you're up first from all these questions, okay? All right. So Marva, it's going to be quick. Biggest leadership myth. Go.
People leave because of money.
Okay, Dave.
I said leadership is not about being in charge. It's about being responsible. Not just being in charge. I had to
All
think
right.
of
Mine
something.
is everyone cannot be a leader. Not everybody can be a leader.
No, that's the truth. I'll agree with that 100%.
Yeah. All
100. I
right.
love it.
So one phrase every manager should stop saying, Marva.
It's just the way we've always done it.
Oh, that was mine. That was
Oh,
mine. But that's the truth. That came right to my mind. Stop
Oh my
saying.
gosh.
yeah.
When you hear it, you go, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
This is
So
how we
Dave,
do
you got the
things.
same thing? You
Yeah,
gonna say
I
the
had
same
it
thing?
because I
Okay.
again, I was thinking about it. I was like, all right. And I've learned, oh, no, this is just the way it's done. Just do it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
no,
Chalkboard.
why do we do it? The why, again, the why. That's
Yeah.
funny.
So mine is you're doing a good job, but using that but word is I catch that a lot. So you're doing a good job, but
You just wiped out the first part of that, right? You're doing a good job.
just start a new sentence.
Start a new sentence.
All right. What is the most overrated leadership trait, Marva?
Overrated.
Great.
Being the smartest person in the room.
Okay. Dave?
I came. I had to Google it. I'm sorry, I couldn't think of something, but it was saying charisma. It's great, but it doesn't fix broken systems. So I'm reading that after I wrote it. I mean, after I did Google that one because I was thinking, what is an over leadership trait? What do you think they're trying to say there?
Yeah, so I'm just saying that you're good at your job, meaning that you're able to then become a leader.
Oh,
So I don't just because you're good at your job does not mean that you should then
overrated
therefore
leadership.
become a leader.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense.
Trying to be the smartest person in the room, right? Listen to
Yeah.
what other people say. Hear people and their ideas because many times there's a better way to do things.
Well, this next one was easy. This is me to a T.
All right. So most underrated leadership skill, Marva.
Listening.
Yeah, mine has always been the list. They've always told me in meetings that it's listen, David, then talk, because I listen, and then when after when two employees said that to me after a meeting, you never listen. I had to stop and sit there. It's like, but you jump to I'm like, you know what? You're right. I think when somebody's in a meeting telling you something, you just go right off. I don't listen, and it comes right out of my mouth. So I try to just okay, sit back. What are you saying? And then figure out how I'm going to answer it.
Yeah, you listen to respond, not just listen. So mine is be kind, say please and thank you. I think that there's so much to that. Say please and say thank you. That's just the simple little things that you can really connect with your team. Please and thank you.
Yep.
All right, Marva, this is I'm anxious to hear what you have to say about this one. Book every new leader should read.
The Advantage.
Which
Okay.
one is it?
The Advantage.
The Advantage.
Yes, The Advantage. It's really an amazing book, and it can totally change your culture. It really is. It's especially in your executive team, building a team, any kind of team. It really is good for just building a really solid team. But I love that.
I like books by Gary Gary. God, I'm going to say his last name. How do you say it? It's Gary. How do you say his last name now? I got a brain freeze here. Vanderchuck, is it? Gary Vanderchuck? Is that? Oh no, you're Googling. I see you. Come on, Google. No, it's Gary. I'm terrible at this, but that's what it's about. Lightning.
What's the name of the book?
It's right here. Gary.
Advantage is Patrick Lencioni. I didn't mention the author. Tell me the name of the book you were talking about.
Gary Vaynerchuk. There it is. Okay. Yeah, American Pessimist. So he came up with crushing it, and I like Crushing It and Jab Jab Right Hawk. And the reason Crushing It is he talks all about the real truths of leadership, and he hits it right in there.
Mhm.
And Gary Van Wyck, that's him right there. Everybody knows Gary. I can't even see
Okay.
it from over there, right? Ooh. But that's who I like reading books on. And that, and believe it or not, I've been doing a lot of HR books, just learning on Amazon. You can go on there and get some great books and just read it, because actually a lot of the stuff in those books, it just relates to you. You're like, wow, been there, done that. But it's not bad to learn. I think as a leader, it's not bad to learn that some of the HR aspects of it, because I
Right.
never knew there was so many different ones. I didn't realize there's probably like 20 different fields of HR. Before you know it, it's not just one or two. But that was a terrible answer for me for a book. Amy, you got me on
So
that one.
mine is Who Moved My Cheese?
Well, that's a
That's
good.
a book I read years ago, and I still reference it. And I think that is such an important book for so many reasons. But Who Moved My Cheese? That's been around for a long time.
Personally,
Yes.
All right. So,
right.
what's one leadership mistake you've personally made, Marva?
For me, it's waiting too long to have a difficult conversation.
Okay.
Because somebody's doing an amazing job, and then you have to have a discussion with them about how something went wrong. That's a hard one.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right, Dave.
mine was really big. I wouldn't bring it up right away. You know what I mean? I would just let it go and let it go. But if that was my downfall, I won't let it happen again. I should just say it like that. I was trying to think of different things. Something comes at you, confront it. This way you don't go crazy about it and ruin everything, your nights. Look, here I go again. Ruin your nights and work, but it takes its toll on you. So that's one thing that I wish I could change more. Back then I wish I would have changed it more, from what I know
So,
now.
mine, I was a new regional manager, and I was I was focused on the wrong thing. So I had a manager, an internal manager, who wanted to go from one station to another. And I had another external person working at the airport that wanted that job. So I said, hey, I'll just hire this external person because he's already there. It's going to save the moving cost, and I don't have to worry about having to find somebody else to replace the other manager. So I made the decision, and then I had my boss say, "Do you really want to do that? You really want to do that?" And then
Oh,
I'm
it
like,
works.
What's your first
no, I
move?
don't.
Maybe
So I
not.
reversed it. So
Yes.
I ended up not moving forward with it. I let the person who wanted to transfer and then backfill the other position. But I was so short-sighted. Because I was so new in my position, I just didn't know to know. And
Right.
I figured that I'm looking at the bigger picture. But what I actually was going to do was destroy the trust that this other manager had, and the promotability. And so luckily I didn't follow through with that, because I got a little nudge to say, hey, rethink that. And so that's something that has always stuck with me,
That's
and I'm
stuck with
glad
you.
that I didn't follow through on that, because that was a learning moment. That was a pivotal learning moment, and one that I still carry with me today.
God, I can imagine just like when you're saying all that. I call again evolve, but with experience, you're just going through all this. You've gone through it all, so
Mhm.
you know how to do it now. But that's why I say, looking at the younger ones like that, what can you do to prevent? What can you say to somebody to prevent that happening from you, like what you went through? You
Right.
know?
Well, it meant the mentorship, I mean, Marva's talked about that. I think that would have been a great
Yeah.
thing for the mentorship to say, hey, well, this is what I would do and why. It's your call. You're the regional manager, but this is the why behind it, and have that being bounced off. So luckily, I didn't make it a final decision, but that was
Right.
what I was going to be doing. And yeah, so I ate crow, and crow didn't taste good.
I call those poop sandwiches, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what leadership trend gives you hope for the future? This is the last one. So,
Yep.
Marva.
I would say people first leadership. When I see that and they're putting people first, when they understand where I was before, our mission statement had our customers first and our employees were last in our mission
Okay.
statement. We changed that. to put our employees first, because when you put your people first, they will take care of your customers.
Yes.
So I'm all about people first leadership.
I like that.
Dave?
Mine, when I read that over and over, I'm thinking, all right, what? But mine comes in. I really like with management with one-on-ones, you know, versus when you were saying before how you wait all year. I think it's great because it's a leadership skill that you're confronting again the now. It's not now. It's not 3 months from now. But I was hoping that a leadership that more. I would tend more if I was to go to another company too. I would do the same thing to give that person hope of saying, "Wow, you know, you can confront it now."
So, Marva, I'm actually copying you, and that was something that I've done and thought about. That people don't work for me; I work for them, and then my team works for the customers, and then the customers come back to the company. So I've always had the reverse thought that nobody works for me, and I'm adamant about that today. We
For
work
that,
together, but nobody works for me because you're working for, sure, then you are. If you're working with, then you are. So it's just a difference of mentality, a thought process, crap in, crap out, or, positivity begats positivity. So it's really important for me that my team is first and I work for them, but
right?
nobody works for me. So
That's
I
a
love it.
definition of servant leadership, Amy, and that's amazing. It's a great
Yeah,
leadership for
and I
sure.
can, I think it's great, and I want to thank you both for coming on. I mean, it's a good show. It's hard. A lot of these things, you look at it and you think it's easy to talk about, but my advice is I always just say go to HR. You have problems, go. The subject that we talked about again, leadership mistakes, HR sees every day. I'm sure, Marva, you'd rather have the problems come to you right away before it can get to that point, right? I
Absolutely.
mean, you could probably make it so much less stressful by having meetings or something like that.
Right on the front end, it's so much easier for sure.
Yeah, and just don't put it off. And I just think that's what I've learned from this show tonight is, it comes down to the leadership. The leaders and HR is there to follow them to make sure you put it out there.
That's right.
And Amy, if you want to, first of all, let me just, Amy, if you want to introduce yourself and what you do, because I want to do it with Marva too before we end.
Yep.
So,
So I'm Amy Stone with Stone Solutions Consulting, and I work with individuals and organizations to better their leaders and work with new ones and maintain the current ones.
nice. And Marva.
All right, I provide HR services, so anything from compliance to employee investigations for smaller companies that just don't have a need or budget to hire HR people, right? I fill that gap. I also do fill in for CHROs. So if a company has a CHRO leave and they don't have a leader for their HR teams, I've filled in for that position until they were able to hire somebody permanently. So I do a little bit of both.
That's outstanding. But if you had to give any Marva, if you had to give some a good advice on problems with that you see every day, what kind of advice would you give somebody out
Uh,
there struggling right now?
My
You
closing
know,
thought, I thought about closing thought, and that would be that great leadership isn't measured by how much control you have. It's measured by how many people become more successful because they worked with you.
whoa, I like that one.
That's
That's
my favorite saying. My favorite thoughts about HR, about leadership in general, right? Is just make when people are there's when they say they loved working for you, and
right.
they'll tell people about it. You've been successful.
That's
Mhm.
nice, Amy.
Yeah, I mean, really echo what Marva had just said. It's same,
Same on
absolutely
that.
same.
Yeah, because it just makes total sense.
Yep.
All right, ladies, I'm going to play this video and then I'll talk to you. And Marva, we'd like to have you back on again too, because
Yeah, of
I
course.
think Amy, again, thank you so much for all these. She puts this together and then sends it out. We got to all do our research and everything like that. But this is, it's nice to be challenged by something, of what you would do. And if anybody needs any, has questions, feel free to reach out, connect with anybody on the show. It's always great to have colleagues to give advice and just to do the right thing, because I would tell people, I don't have a problem telling them, so all right, ladies, I will say goodbye and we'll talk right after this, and let me find this. So talk to you very soon. All right.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.